Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of M365 Voice. My name is Mike Mararani.
I'm Sarah Haase.
And I'm Antonio Mayo.
And we are excited today to have a special guest with us. We have Laurie Pottmeyer, Senior Program Manager, Community Lead for Microsoft Teams. Welcome to our episode. If you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Like Mike said, my name is Laurie Pottmeyer. I'm the community lead within Microsoft Teams Engineering, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So typically, we pull a question from a jar, and Sarah does that, and we answer the questions on the fly for people from the community that send us some questions. But this time, we're going to flip it around, and we're going to ask you some questions about all the greatest features about Microsoft Teams, what things you're excited about. We'll take some round robin as well. Sometimes we fight over who's going to go first or interrupt each other from, yes, this is my turn now, but everyone is excited. We're happy to have you. So let's get started. I will take the first one.
All right.
That's a smart plan there, Mike.
This will be Mike's 27-part question.
That's right. Prepare yourself, Laurie. We do tend to ask a lot of questions. And before Mike goes, I want to have something else I want to ask. So that's how this will go.
Okay, I'm ready. Shoot.
Should be fun. So with so many features have been released with Microsoft Teams lately, especially after COVID and the pandemic, can you let us know what are your top 5 features that you like the most?
5 features, yeah. It's pretty crazy, isn't it? How many features we've delivered in the last few months. It's been moving quickly around here, and there's so many great things. I think, probably my favorite new feature is Together Mode, and I know a lot of people have been using it for a couple of months now, and I'm really excited for the new views that are coming out as well. When we look at the number of meetings that all of us are attending right now virtually, whether you have worked from home and traveled and been on online meetings before or not, seems like all of us are just online more. We're looking at that screen and we have meeting fatigue. And so the Together Mode, really, it's shown, they've done studies that have shown that it really does make people feel more connected to the people that we're with. And I see that in meetings that I'm in, definitely when people are on video, but that next layer of having the Together Mode and feeling like you are together in a room with people is pretty cool. So that's probably my favorite feature. And I'm looking forward to the new views that were announced as well at Ignite. It's going to be pretty cool. My other favorite new feature is pinned posts. So in a team, you are able to make an announcement or post something and then pin it to the top so that people can see it. It's persistent, and then you can unpin it when you're ready to let it fall down in the queue. But that is really helpful for me for some of the teams that I manage, where I want everybody to see that the minute that they come in. I want it to stay there. Whether it's a welcome message to a new team or some instructions for something, I really like the ability to pin my conversations or pin an announcement. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've been using that a lot. The other new thing that I'm excited about that is just rolling out, and I haven't actually used it myself, but I am really looking forward to, are surveys in Teams. There's also a ton of new apps for meetings that have been released lately, and that was announced in the blog that came out, I think, yesterday, all the different meetings apps that have come out. And so I'm really excited about being able to have surveys. I know Forms is one of the ones that was announced yesterday, so that's exciting that we'll be able to use Forms. But yeah, there's just having the ability to have that real time posting a survey up there instead of having to take a link and put it in the chat window is going to be really nice. Whether that's, getting feedback for our products when we do feedback sessions, or whether that's doing an event or a session and having a real-time feedback on the experience. I think that's going to be really nice. And then let's see, presence status duration. So that's one that I was really looking forward to. And I'm one of those people that leaves the out of office on forever. And thank goodness, Outlook has always had the end date, but in Teams, I seem to leave up out of office messages. And so, I put these messages when I have an event going on, so people know that I'm going to be slow to respond, or, if I'm leaving for the day, and being able to set a duration so that I can say, okay, on Friday, stop telling people that I'm going to be at this event or consumed with X project. So that's been kind of nice to have that as well. And then my fifth one would be the lobby. And I'm the worst because I never set the lobby right, but I'm starting to get in the habit of turning off the lobby when I don't actually need the lobby, but I do love having it. And I know it's especially imperative for the EDU customers, kids joining in a classroom that need their lobby turned on, so that they're not in there before the teacher and so on. So yeah, the lobby feature is a great feature to have for those more structured scenarios when it's not just a collaborative team meeting or something like that. Those are my 5 top. I could go on.
Those are great features.
Do you have other questions for me?
Nope, those are great features. And notice I inserted myself right in there, Laurie. So I have a question for you. So we've had the opportunity to know you for years, but I'm guessing 2020 and specifically COVID has really changed how your day-to-day work life is. So what would you say in terms of being on the Microsoft Teams team at Microsoft? How has 2020 really changed the way that you work and the way that your team functions?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I've worked from home for about 8 years, maybe even a little bit longer. I don't know. I'm losing track. And a lot of people have said like, oh, well, with COVID, but you're used to working from home, and the reality is, yes, I'm used to working from home, but I actually got out of these 4 walls more than I do now. I was able to travel, probably about 25%, a couple of trips each month, and it was really nice to get out and be able to do those things. And sadly, we're at home, and it's been challenging not having those personal connections. But thank goodness that we work for a product, work on a product that enables people to do what we're doing right now. And so it's been super exciting. The team dynamic has been crazy. I mean, everybody, flew in high gear as if we weren't already busy working on a brand new product. But I say brand new, but less than 5 years old. But then also, with COVID and really making sure that people worldwide were able to connect. Not only with doing their job and collaborating, but, with friends and family, and, making sure that people had the ability to do that. It was super important. And so, people are working like crazy. And so we're really focused on work-life balance as a team too, because I'm sure all of you know, and the people watching, we're all busy right now, thankfully. And I think that some of the things that have helped us as a team is starting 10 minutes late for meetings. So instead of starting a meeting at 9 a.m., we'll start at 9:10 a.m. And that just gives people a 10-minute break between meetings. And so people may ask, well, why don't you just make them 45 or 15-minute meetings and just end early? And the reality is that nobody ever ends their meeting on time when you do that, right? If everybody knows that you have 10 minutes, and for some reason, that shift of starting 10 minutes later has really helped. And that way, people at least are getting up from their computers, or, checking on their children if they're at home, or taking a walk around the block, just, having a break so that it's not just back to back to back, having to jump from one meeting to the next. And so that's been helpful. And then we also do, we still have happy hours. Our leadership does lunches, with smaller subsets of the team, different times. So we've really tried to find ways and be creative to connect with one another. And in a couple of weeks, we have a white elephant gift exchange within the PM team for Teams. And so I'm looking forward to that too. It should be very interesting online.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
I would I too have been working from home for years, but it's different, I find, where the rest of the world is also working from home. And the notion, like what you said, of going, back to back to back to back to back meetings all day long happens more times a week than not. And that just gets exhausting. So it's great that you do those things. And notice how I insert myself into the discussion so that now I can ask the next question.
Nice work, Antonio.
Yeah.
Laurie, you're inspiring such manners because we normally are not this nice. Normally it's like, wait. I had 13 subparts. So
yes. So like you probably saw, my question for you is, and you probably saw a difference pre-COVID versus during COVID around this, is how are people actually, or what have you seen in terms of people rolling? So are people rolling out the different services or capabilities in a particular order? Are they rolling out everything at once? Has that changed now with now that we're in COVID times versus before? What are your thoughts on the rollout process?
Yeah, it's interesting. People used to plan this stuff for like 6 months, a year and a half. It was a big thought out process of how we're going to deploy technology. And when COVID hit, it was like, the wrecking ball came and blew it all up, and we just had to go for it. And people were just getting it out the door. And in some cases, people had deployed Teams, but maybe not used it widely, or, maybe they had a pilot going, or maybe they were just using, chat, for instance. And, when COVID hit and we were all forced to go virtual, it really obviously shifted things. And so the IT departments that had thrown it out or, just gotten it out to their users now have the opportunity to kind of go back and look at that deployment and figure out, okay, have we looked at all of our governance? Are there things that we need to change, things that we need to open up, things that we need to lock down based on how people are using it, how it's going? Every organization is different, certainly. And so people who are currently using Teams may have discovered things that they need to tighten up, or their users are using it in a different way than they expected, and maybe there's some things that need to be shifted. So this is a really good opportunity for some of those people to go back and look at their deployment and figure out exactly what they need to do to get it healthy to where it needs to be, and do some monitoring and really looking at what they expected and where they're at, and what changes could need to be made. But that said, for those that right now are maybe moving from another technology, or starting from scratch and looking at their deployment and have some time to plan, certainly moving and deploying with different modalities to start is something to think about. Again, it's super different depending on what type of organization that you have. But a lot of people like to start with, messaging, and have the opportunity to have people message back and forth, and also have the ability to schedule meetings so that, that really helps with adoption. When you can invite people to your meetings and they have the opportunity to attend a Teams meeting firsthand and see all of the different integration and how meeting notes can take place and how you can chat within that group post meeting and continue the conversation if it needs to happen, take action items, attach documents, those types of things. So meetings first is something that a lot of people will choose to do with collaboration, or with, file sharing, that piece of collaboration, and calling be kind of the secondary. But again, with COVID, a lot of people had to get everything out the door because it's what needed to happen. So, kind of taking a step back and looking at what needs to take place next is a good plan. And there's lots of resources to help with that too. On Office Online, one of the resources that we have is the Teams Toolkit, and that's aka.ms/Teams Toolkit. And that has a lot of really great visuals in it, but also links to all the resources. So whether you're a new deployment or an existing customer who has Teams and need to revisit some of the some of the deployment details, that's a really good place to start. And then also success with teams. So it's aka.ms success with teams. And that is kind of that methodology of deploy, manage, adopt. And it walks you through the different steps and gives recommendations based on your use case. So those are two really great resources. And then of course, being able to ask questions is something that's super helpful. I mean, using your community, whether that's other, people within your own department or your users who have used Teams at another organization, or if you're an IT pro looking for what have other organizations done, being able to reach out to the tech community, which is aka.ms Teams community. That's a really great place to ask questions, ask for advice if you can't find your answer, or even just, see what other people have done. And it's a great place to share your experiences too, because chances are somebody else is going through what you've had to figure out. So yeah, definitely take advantage of those resources too.
I think you've seen a crazy increase in the Teams community, have you not?
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying we have about 204,000 people in the tech community just focused on Microsoft Teams right now. So there's a lot of people out there willing to answer your question. And there's a lot of people who will consume your experiences. So definitely visit it. I think last year in November at Ignite, we were, I guess it was September, we were at 100,000. So we've more than doubled in a year. So yeah, lots of interest in Microsoft Teams and tons of people out there to help you. It's such a great community.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So with that numbers doubling, not only on the tech community side, and we've talked about the pandemic and COVID and how people are quickly deploying teams to work together remotely. The latest numbers that we've seen back in October, that the number of active daily users has jumped by 50% to 115 million active daily users. That's a lot of number. That's a big number. So how does engineering keep up with this increase that has suddenly happened within only months to keep the lights on, a good performance, and everything's working properly? I don't know if you have any insight on the engineering side to tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, we started seeing, the beginning of COVID, we started seeing the numbers increase significantly in China first. We saw APAC numbers really start to increase. And it's interesting if you look at the mapping, how that changed with COVID and the, how widespread COVID was. It was like a wrecking ball. It really was. It was like, okay, you've had these plans and you've been researching and talking to customers and seeing what they would like and looking at user voice and trying to figure out what our, next steps would be in the development process. And COVID came and blew that up. And, frankly, we were put in a position where we just wanted to make sure that everybody had access. First and foremost, that people were able to access Teams so they could communicate, get their business done. Especially when you look at, our first line workers and, people in education and just keeping the lights on. I mean, we had so many governments and, police and city departments and, people are doing, we're all just doing very important work. I mean, look at all the IT departments supporting, huge organizations worldwide, and so many people doing important work. We really want to make sure that everybody had access to Teams, and then we want to make sure that the quality was there. And so that was really important to us. And there's some sacrifices that we had to make, and you're probably aware of some of the things we had to do, and turning off some features for some time to make sure that. Presence was one of those. People started complaining about presence. We're like, I know we had to, shift and kind of turn some things down so that we could have, better quality and be able to scale with the vast numbers that we were seeing. And so we had to do some of that. But, we're getting up to the point where we're not having to do that, but we are still absolutely monitoring quality and reliability. That's very, very important to us, while keeping security, security is front and center as well. And then balancing that with like keeping the lights on, but doing it well. And then also looking at what new features do we need to create? How can we stay competition? How can we make sure that we're doing new and different things, not just keeping up with, but really innovating? And so it's a balancing act, trying to figure out, how do we keep things stable and secure, but also get the features out the door that people want, but not just do that, do more, do different, exciting, helpful, all those know that they need, that they do, that they will. So it's been a challenge. It's been difficult, but it's been a good challenge. The team is working really, truly around the clock. A lot of smart people, but it's been a challenge, and one that we've all stepped up to. So yeah, working on the team right now is a super exciting place to be.
I bet.
And a lot of work hours. I know how hard all of you have been working all this year, and frankly, an insane amount of time just to be able to make sure that people are connected. And so it's been tremendous to watch the growth in the community, the growth in terms of the volume of people that are using Teams. So I'm going to switch gears because I am interested in talking about, are there any Teams features that you're surprised that people aren't talking about more? So maybe Teams features that you feel like, wow, that's a really cool feature. I thought people were really going to glom onto that, and they might use it all the time, but you don't hear it talked about as much.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think everybody kind of has their favorite features, and within the MVP community, we do this thing called Meet the Teams team, and we always have, every couple of weeks we'll introduce a new MVP. And one of the questions that I ask is, what's your favorite Teams feature? And it's always so interesting because some of them I'm like, oh, you could do that. I didn't even, they're just things that tips and tricks that people have figured out that don't get shared widely. And so I'm always learning new things there. But everybody has their own thing that they like. And certainly we all use Teams in a different way too. Everybody's work style is also different. One of the things that I use, I use it every single day, is being able to look at your activity feed and filter in there and look at, what are the things that people are tagging me on, as opposed to just an FYI, right? Like it may be, if it's somebody tagging an entire team, I look at that as like I'm on a distribution list in an email. Whereas if somebody is tagging me explicitly, then they're wanting to make sure that me personally, I know what they're talking about, or there's an action to me. So that's probably, one thing that I use every single day. And then the other thing is being able to tag users. That's something that, not a lot of people talk about. A lot of people use it. But I have started tagging users in my conversations, and I'm talking about not an individual, but subsets. So you can assign labels to subsets of people in your team. So maybe you have like a virtual team, a V team, or, project team, that are working on a particular project with you. And there may be, 50 people in that team, but really there's only the 8 people that you want to make sure hear about something or get an update or look at a status report and so on. And so you can attach labels to those people, and then you can mention that group. So only those 8 people will get that notification. And that really cuts down on the noise that you get from the mentioning of teams. And, people know that the team is there for them to look at. They can look at all the different channels and see when there's new activity. They don't necessarily need to be mentioned for everything that's happening in every channel. But I do like that, and that's not something that I think a lot of people use yet, because they haven't quite figured out how and when to do it. But when you go to tag a team or tag a channel, think about who that's going to, and then is there a better way? Do I really only need 5 people to look at this, or 10 people, or even 20 people, or do all the people in this entire team need to see it? It just helps cut down on the noise. And then Another one is, kind of some of the search capabilities in Teams, and Control F is one that I like. It allows you to search within a particular chat or within a particular team. We have so many teams that we're a part of. I've lost count. And so when I do a search, it brings up everything from everything, and it's super overwhelming. So being able to kind of pare that down and target a particular conversation or a specific team really helps me get the results I'm looking for.
I love that, because we had Bill Bear on, and I was saying that was one of my favorite little snippets from one of the Ignite demos, was somebody who was showing that they actually do that as a part of their everyday job. So brilliant answer to that question.
Shortcuts, and I don't ever use half of them because I just forget. But there are so many great shortcuts out there.
It's interesting, like when you said that, the way you introduce people on the teams, the MVPs and the Teams team, ask them what their favorite feature is. Like the features you just mentioned, I don't use any of them. I never use the activity feed.
Really?
Yeah, never.
But so I never knew you could filter the activity feed. Yes. So I'm like listening to this and I'm like, really? Yeah. You can actually try that? I'm gonna have to give that a go.
Yeah. I mean, because it's like a reply all, sometimes you'll go through your email and you'll look at like, okay, what do I really need to look at? What ones of these are mailing list things versus like, what is an email that's to me that somebody needs a response from me on? That's how you do it in email usually, right? So in Teams, I kind of do it the same way. My chats are my first priority. I look at those first because those people are usually communicating with me one-on-one, or it's a small group of us talking about something somebody needs, right? Those are online conversations. Then I go to the activity feed. So, I'll usually just do this in the morning, like when I first get to my computer or on my phone and look, and the activity feed, then I'll sort by or filter by whose app mentioned me. That's what I start with, and then I'll kind of go from there.
That's cool. It's interesting to hear that, because like I find that myself and probably lots of other people are looking for just more efficient ways to work lately. So it's interesting to hear your perspective on that, because I figure, you folks at Microsoft are living this every single day. So being able to hear some of that, what you do, is helpful.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in with a question, and
so that wasn't a question.
No, that wasn't. That was a statement.
Antonio, you totally can't do that.
Yes, I can.
I'm breaking the rules.
So going back to engineering team, are there some exciting features on the roadmap that are coming up that you're excited about, that you're excited are going to be rolling out? Is there any of those you can share with us?
Yeah, God, there's so many amazing features. Like, it's pretty crazy how many features that we have rolled out. And if you go to the roadmap, that's where you'll see what's coming. So if you go to Teams or aka.ms/Teams roadmap, there you can see what is in progress, what has recently just rolled out. And then you can also see what's coming. And sometimes they'll have a date if they have it, or at least like a quarter or something, so you can kind of see the progress that's being made. And then in user voice, you can see the individual asks. So if you go into user voice and you've put something there previously and you want to see what the status is, anything that is in progress or planned will always have an update in there too. So you can look in those two places. But probably one of the ones that I like that helps with work-life balance is the queue sent messages. That's one that I actually didn't even know that was coming, and I'm very excited about it because that helps with people who work in the middle of the night. I'm not going to mention any names, but I might be one of them, because I don't want to send something to somebody and have them feel like they have to reply if it's after hours. And, I think that our work styles are all different, but certainly, it's good to model good behaviors. And so by queuing your sent messages so that something's not going out in the middle of the night, but instead maybe at 8 or 9 a.m., that's a more realistic time for people to get messages. So yeah, that's one that I'm pretty excited about. But all the features that are there on the roadmap, and you can check them out And then there was just a blog. So we do a monthly blog as well that talks about things that are new. It's called What's New in Teams. And that just got released on the 2nd of December. So you can look at that. It's always the first week of the month. And that's in the tech community, which is aka.ms/teamsblog. And then that's where you'll find the What's New articles. And so you can see what just got released over the past 30 days.
Great.
That is lovely. I love that. That queue feature is really, really handy, because sometimes I work sometimes late and I just don't want to send messages because I don't want to imply that I'm expecting a reply back.
Exactly.
So yeah. I'm going to use it quite a bit.
Yeah, good.
So that was a really, really good ride about what current features, what has been released, how Microsoft works, and the upcoming feature. It was really, really awesome discussion. Laurie, thank you again for being with us. We really enjoyed this discussion and all the insights you have given us, and looking forward to talking to you more in the future.
Great. Thank you all for everything that you're doing to help get the word out about Teams and enable people to use it. And then for the community too, and the people that are watching your podcast, thank you for using Teams and being interested in it. And please continue to share your feedback and interact with us through the tech community and through User Voice. We definitely want to hear what you need. And I'm just so appreciative that you had me. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Laurie.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.